aptly called Game of Thrones. For that, if I may invite Kapil Sibal, Senior Advocate and former Union Minister, on stage, please. Give him a big round of applause, everyone. And to have this discussion, can I call upon stage Rajan Kalia, founder, Salto de Fe. Thank you.
Good evening, everybody. Good to be here with you. And welcome, sir, to the SHRM conference. This is perhaps the largest and the biggest HR conference in this side of the world. And we are very honored to have you here today with us. So let me start with some HR questions. And let me start with the topic which you are the expert. If you were to look at the labor laws of this country, and we were to look at some of the laws which we have been governing us for past 50, 60, 70 years on labor, what's your view? What kind of changes are needed if you were to progress in this century?
That's not an easy question to answer.
Okay.
No, for the simple reason that, India lives in about 300 layers, perhaps more. At one level, there are 800 million people who earn less than 10,000 rupees a month. And they are also employed, not maybe formally employed, but informally employed. You can imagine the impact on the workforce if you deal with them on a daily basis, throw them out of jobs. As it is, they have not enough. Then, of course, there's the formal sector of the economy, where you have labor unions and stuff like that. But they also don't, in terms of their salaries and in terms of the economy, they hardly make their ends meet. So I think, on the one hand, you have the issues of survival. All input costs, consumer products costs have gone up. Schooling has gone up. Medical care has gone up. Prices of petrol and diesel have gone up, so transportation has gone up. Sure. So if you really, and that's where industry looks for the hire and fire scenario, if you have that in place, it has enormous impact on the lives of people. So you have to take care of that on the one hand. On the other hand, I think that the laws, labor laws, may be more flexible. And I think that industry has to deal with it on taking into account what the industry is doing, what the labor force is like, what flexibility do they have in the context of that labor force. And I think that flexibility should be given to industry. But if you want an answer of a yes and no,
I'm not looking at that.
It's impossible to give that answer.
But I'm looking at from a perspective of that there's a change in how and what kind of industry we are progressing with. For example, a lot of IT, ITES, service industries which has come up. Many of our laws were made keeping manufacturing and those kind of industries in mind. And over a period of time, lots of these new age companies struggle with the old laws. And then we find it very difficult to progress. And also, many of them have turned humanitarian. For example, the likes of TCS, Wipro, the big organizations, they are moving ahead faster on some of the things which they do much more than what the law requires them to do. And obviously, they find it a little bit of a constraint when the law constrains on some of the other aspects. So I'm looking at from the perspective of if the nature of industry is changing, how should we look at some of these archaic laws and what should be our point of view?
Again, when you talk about nature of industries, if you segregate the IT sector from the manufacturing sector, just yesterday, TCS made a huge profit. Right? And they're doing very well despite the laws.
And they raise the compensation also for the employees.
Yeah, so I'm saying, if you ask Wipro, if you ask some of the other big IT setups, I don't have they have too much of a problem on the employment front. So I don't think there's a real labor issue there. The real labor issue is with the other sectors. With the manufacturing sector, you have the automobile sector, the problems in Maruti, the problems in other places. Those are real problematic issues.
Sure, I understand.
And I think the world is moving the other way around now. if you really look at what's happening in the United States where you're based.
Okay, so shifting the topic a little bit and coming to, since we're talking about HR, and there's been a lot of talk by your government and the new government on the skilling of people and making sure that the skills of people get upgraded, and we are ready for this century again. What is your view on that, and how do we deal with that particular skill getting upgraded?
Unfortunately, I don't think that the nation has really had a vision on this. You see, you can have an education system that emphasizes both academics and skilling. We don't have an education system that actually deals with it. I tried to bring about some vocational training in my, after class 8 in the school system. Somehow the present government didn't take it forward. And you just don't have enough teachers. Remember, to skill people, you have to have skilled teachers. And to have skilled teachers, you have to have programs skilling teachers. You don't have enough training institutes to skill those teachers. If you don't have those skilled teachers, you can't have skilled students. So you can't introduce curriculums in school for the purposes of skilling. And I think in the context of India, you need an entirely new approach. For example, take the automobile sector, Maruti. So we tell Maruti, open up a school for skill development. We give you a tax break. Right? All the investment that you make, and train people in the automobile sector out of class 12, and train them in such a way that they can get employed in the automobile sector, not only in Maruti, but in other automobile manufacturers. And you can have a combined skilling program, and you can sort of have little hubs of such programs all around. And if the government decides to give them a tax break, they don't have to make the investment. If they don't make the investment, that capital is saved for other public sector activities. Absolutely. Right? And you allow the industry to actually develop skills for that particular niche sector. The same thing you can do with the telecommunications sector. You have lakhs and lakhs of towers around the country. Now, who maintains them? There are people who maintain them. Now, what's the skills required for maintenance of a telecom tower? And if it's all over the country, you'll give rural employment to lakhs of people in this sector as well. So you need to take different sectors of the economy, leather industry, right? Hosiery. So you take any sector of the economy and you'll be able to bring industry on board, have a certification program through the industry, and in the process of that certification program, skill people, and you don't require BA and MA degrees to do that. You can have a class 12 student who comes out, and you will create jobs in the process, and you will have a whole new generation of people who are skilled. And there's no vision in this country.
So coming back to the vision question, if, let's say, if you come back to power and you are the minister again, what would be?
These guys are so sure that they'll get 346 in the next Lok Sabha election.
We'll see. I will keep away from that.
Let's go away from the if.
That's
ask
right.
the question.
Okay. The question is simply, what will be your vision? What kind of skills would you like to develop for the industry? What kind of industry would you like India to progress with in the coming years?
I don't think it's anything to do with what I like. It's something to do with how the economy is moving forward. And I think we are integrated to the global economy. What is the demand out there in the export sector? Which areas of the export sector is there demand? And skills have to be developed in the context of that demand. Because what's the demand in the domestic sector, right? And I think with 1.3 billion people, you can develop enormous skills in the development. So what you need to do is to have a focus on how the economy is going to grow and the sectors in which the economy is going to grow in the next 15 to 20 years, right? Sure. And you have the numbers with you. In the context of that, what kind of skills do you require for industry in the context of economic growth? And that's how, it's nothing to do with me, it's something to do with how the economy is going to grow in the next 15, 20 years.
Sure, I was coming from a perspective that this government, which came in, they started with Make in India and bringing back manufacturing and all that stuff which happened. And we hear very little of it now, right? So if you were to look at it from...
Nowadays it's Make in France, not Make in India.
So if you were to look at it from your perspective, how would you like to change?
Well, first of all, this Make in India program it doesn't make sense to me. Because the Make in India program is for niche sectors of industry. For example, DRDO, working with with Boeing, right? On part of our satellite programs involving, high tech in the public sector. That's nothing to do with Make in India. Make in India, what China did, right? The mass products produced in India for the purposes of export or for the purposes of domestic consumption is what Made in India is.
Yep.
And in the last 4 or 5 years, the number of jobs that have been lost in the IT sector alone.
Yes.
You have Startup India, it's not started yet. No, it hasn't. It hasn't.
Yeah.
It hasn't. In fact, people have been thrown out of employment in the Startup of India program. There was an investment of 10,000 crores, which the finance minister promised, and ultimately the allocation was 600 crores in the Startup India program. So at the moment, it's Sit Down India. So I hope in 2019, it is really Startup India.
Okay, so I'm going to take a break here because we're going to shift the topics. I'm going to ask Shoma to come in and talk more about the politics and really the Game of Thrones. Yeah, Shoma, come over. Thank you.
Good evening, everyone. I apologize for walking in a bit late. Maybe this is why man is being replaced by machine, because there seems to have been a bit of a communication gap, so my apologies. Very quickly, I'm the co-founder and director of Algebra, the Arts and Ideas Club. My name is Shoma Chaudhary, and I'm delighted to be here. Thank you for having me. And, I'm not sure how much Rajan has already introduced the book that Kapil has written, so I'll just mention that it's called Shades of Truth, The Journey Derailed. And Kapil, like the good lawyer that he is, has marshaled a lot of facts to explain why the BJP is derailed, but 2019 looms in front of him, so we'll have to take on some counterfacts as well and look at what the real picture looks like and the shades of truth on both sides. Today, of course, India is really polarized between 2 or 3 choices. All of them seem between the devil and the deep sea. On the one side, we have now the image of a strong government that is also fairly communal. On the other side, we have a vast array of an opposition force that seems to smithereen itself every passing moment. And then there's all of us sandwiched in between, wondering whom to choose and why to choose. I hope after this session we have at least some clarity on whom not to choose, even if we're still unsure of whom to choose. So, thank you. And apologies, Kapil, again.
No problem, no problem.
Kapil, so let's start with the title of your book. You called it Shades of Truth. Was it both a self-reflection and an accusation?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it's very difficult to really find out what the truth is in today's world. You have the world of journalism, where truth is buried in between the lines that are written and on social platforms. And it's very difficult to really figure out what the truth is. But I think what's happened in the last 4 or 5 years is we definitely know where the lies are. And we've yet to find out what the truth is.
So that's a good place to start, Kapil. As I said, your book kind of takes on the BJP and Mr. Modi's administration on several counts, on the economy, on politics, and the future, and on ideology, So let's start with, and as I said, the ammunition will also come your way. But to begin with, let's give you the easy route, which is the criticism part. So what are the 4 or 5 top things that you would want to fight the Modi government on, which you think are really inimical for this country?
Well, I think they're completely inept in managing the economy. I think that's the really heart of everything. A nation moves forward when the economy moves forward. And they're in an absolute mess. The non-performing assets of the banks are phenomenal. Now with the IL&FS sort of meltdown, it owes about 90,000 crores. How the finance minister in this country is going to manage that is a big problem. So I think economy is one area where they have completely failed.
Kapil, I know I asked you for 5 points, but I do need to interject here because the NPA is a touchy topic for the UPA to pick up, because a lot of the really bad loans cascade began in the second term of the UPA.
Oh, absolutely.
That kind of largesse, the crony capitalism, Raghuram Rajan himself said that it was a threat to democracy. That happened on your watch. It may have escalated now under Mr. Modi's regime.
I entirely agree with you. It started in 2010 to be exact. And it started in 2010 because of the wise words of the Accountant General, CNAG in this country. He put the telecom so-called scam at 1,76,000 crores, pursuant to which the BJP upped the ante, and of course the television channels supported them. And then the court rendered a judgment by which they cancelled all the licenses. This was followed by the alleged coal scam, where the apparent presumed loss was 1,85,000 crores, which was then picked up by the BJP, and all the coal licenses were cancelled. So you're right, this rot started during our time, because after the cancellation of the coal licenses, let me tell you what happened. If I set up a power plant in, say, Odisha, and I have invested 15 to 20,000 crores in setting up that power plant, and I have a captive coal plant which has been allocated to me on the advice of the state government through a screening committee set up by the central government, and suddenly the court says you don't have coal, right? So what happens to my power plant? Just let me explain.
Sure.
So the Coal India is not in a position to give coal to me. I am in no position to extract coal which, from the allocation that is made to me. So I have then to import coal from outside, the cost of which is the international market price of coal. Therefore, my power plant does not make money. And the thousands of crores that I have taken from banks, I cannot pay back. That's the beginning of the rot of the Indian economy. And you're right, it started during our time, and the credit of that goes to the BJP.
Are you suggesting that Mr. Vinod Rai was already extension of the BJP at that time?
I'm not suggesting any of that.
Okay.
I'm suggesting that his unwise opposition politics to gain political points resulted in messing up the entire economy. What happened to the telecom sector? How many players did we have in the telecom sector? You had Telenor, you had Etisalat, you had any number of other players who were there. Now, there are only 3 players left. You have Vodafone Idea, which has merged. Reliance has gone out, so now you have a new player in Reliance Jio. And you have Airtel. Both Airtel and Vodafone are at a loss. The only company making profit is Jio, right? And at that time, all companies were making profit. In fact, the telecom sector on the upswing, but after the cancellation of the licenses, today, that sector is in debt of 5 lakh crores. It started with us, but I thank the BJP for that.
So, Kapil, we'll just stay with this for maybe a couple more minutes before we move away because there's so much to talk about. But on the coals, on the telecom scam, that phrase stuck with you when you said it's zero loss. And so there was a distinction between policy and corruption, and you could have defended the policy that you wanted telecom to reach as many people, you wanted to put mobiles in everyone's hands, and it was a policy decision. But there was also the whole issue of corruption, of choosing people, of letting people know only one day in advance or a few hours in advance and all of that. So we'll come to the telecom, but the coal scam...
No, 1 second. There's no point making that statement without me allowing me to respond.
Okay.
What happened to all those allegations? There was a trial. The CBI under the BJP, right, was at the head of the trial. And what did the judge say? I kept waiting from 10 in the morning to 5 in the evening for somebody to tell me what was it that was done wrong by the government. And at the end of it, he said, there is no evidence of any corruption. There is no evidence of any wrongdoing. There is no evidence of anybody skipping the queue. That's the finding of the court, not my finding. So on what basis do you say that there was corruption, and who has been held guilty of corruption? You see, the point is, and this is where we live in a world where the shades of truth, right, are somewhere out there that the general public doesn't know about. And if the media sort of scandalizes facts which don't exist and persuade the public through the social media, and they have an army of the social media, then ultimately the country suffers, the sector suffers.
Well, I must admit that that's a fair point, because with the judiciary as the last post, it is unfair and unethical to hold on to the allegation of corruption once the highest court has cleared somebody.
Not the highest court, the trial court, they want to go up.
Yeah, so when we, it was Mr. Singhvi's court though, so.
Saini's court, Mr.
Saini's court, yeah.
The special judge, the special
CBI judge, yeah. So we'll wait for the final outcome on that. But for the time being, until further evidence, one has to bow to that. But I was coming back to the coal scam because you made a much more strong assertion there, which is that there was absolutely no, it's the power plants that stopped after the licenses were cancelled. But just going back about policy and governance, that a whole lot of people were given coal mines at that time who had absolutely nothing to do with power plants. And at the time that this assertion was made that there is a scam, almost 80% of those mines weren't even operational. People were really squatting on resources for some future benefit. What would be your response to that?
This is the other problem. You see, the country doesn't know what the truth is. Remember, if you are allocated a coal mine, it will take you 5 to 7 years to actually bring it up to production, because you go through very, 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 very elaborated processes. You have to have a mining plan. You have to have an environment clearance. You have to have a production plan. And there are specialized authorities which clear all that. And then you start with production, right? And your verment or your statement that this was given to people who had nothing to do, that's absolutely right. Remember this, when the telecom sector started in India, right? Who was in the telecom sector? There was nobody. So if you start giving telecom license to people in the telecom sector, there will be nobody getting a license.
By that, just an aside, by that logic, is Mr. Anil Ambani justified in getting a defense contract when he has no defense company?
You want me to comment on that topic? We can do it. So let's go back to the real issue. So there was no telecom sector in this country right from 1991, when the liberalization process took place. So you had to give licenses to whom? Those who were not in telecom, right? Similarly with coal. Who needs coal? Steel, cement, power, and alloys. These are the sectors that need coal, and you have players in this sector. But the coal mines are in hundreds and thousands. So you need to allocate coal mines. There will be people who will be wanting to set up an industry who are not in the coal sector. Somebody has the capital to set up industry. He will say, give me a license, give me a coal block, and I will set up an industry. He's entitled to do that. What you need to do is to have parameters. Parameters in terms of financial capacity, parameters in terms of joint venture. I need not have any experience, but I can do a joint venture with a foreign investor. He can give me the expertise, I can provide the capital, and I can set and get a coal allocation. So I think this is all very, what should I say, undigested facts that we put out in the public, and the public sort of swallows it. And that's the problem. That's the problem.
So, Kapil, unfortunately, we have too wide a canvas to linger on this topic much further, and I don't want to lose the audience, with the minutiae of this. But just to wrap that particular argument up, on the broad strokes, would you accept that auctioning of national resources is by and large a better route than having government discretion on handing it out?
I don't want to talk on behalf of any party, but as an individual, I think that we need to have a flexible policy on these issues. And I'll give you an example. I want to set up a school in Delhi, and I need an acre of land. Now, if somebody were to say you buy the land on auction, it'll cost 100 crores, right? Why would anybody set up a school in Delhi by buying land for 100 crores? You'll never be able to recover the money. So should you give land for setting up schools by auction? Answer is no. Set up a hospital. The same logic applies to hospitals. The answer is no. Should you do that for airwaves, that is spectrum, for the purposes of telecommunication? Well, the answer may be yes and no. You may set up a benchmark price. Because remember, ultimately, what's your objective? What's the nation's objective? The nation's objective is that the guy who has a mobile phone should not have to pay too high a tariff, right? His cost should be less. Now, if you sell the spectrum at an exorbitant price, for example, we used to allocate it at 1680, but that went up to 5,000 crores. So if you were to allocate spectrum at 5,000 crores, where is he going to recover the cost from? In many countries in the world, spectrum is given free. For example, in China, spectrum is given free, but nothing happened to the powers that be in China. Nobody says there's corruption, right? There are lots of Scandinavian countries where there's no charge for spectrum. In England, they tried the experiment of auctioning spectrum. It failed. So I think that there needs to be flexibility. You shouldn't give it free, but it shouldn't be at a competitive price by which people need spectrum, but they can't afford ultimately when they bid
to make
for
profits,
it,
yeah.
they can't afford to. And this is what's happened to our sectors.
So Kapil, you've made that point. Again, going back to learnings from the government, from your past, what would you say was the greatest learning from UPA 2? From all of this?
That I couldn't convey my thoughts to you.
So communication was a big breakdown?
Communication, the big breakdown. Whenever we try to explain things to people, the media projected just the opposite. Now, I don't know the reason for that. Maybe they were just sick of us, which is okay. Maybe they just wanted change, which is fine. Maybe there were some other reasons that I don't know, and perhaps I know and I don't want to tell you.
There are all these shades of truth now. You know? Well, Kapil, let's move away momentarily from the economy back to my original question, which was meant to be a soft option, but it's not turning out so soft, which was that what are the 5 points on which you feel you can really, really pin the Modi government down? So you picked economy.
I picked the economy. The other is the atmosphere of fear. The guy walking on the street doesn't know whether he's going to be lynched or not, depending on, whether he's a Dalit or he belongs to the minority community. The sense of fear, the sense of that you do not belong, or that you are made to feel that you do not belong. I think that's one very, very big area of concern as far as I am concerned. There's a governor said, or one minister said that India has been a secular country since 1976. He said that because the word secular was added to the Constitution in 1976. That just shows you the mindset of these people. So that's my second fear. Lack of feeling of belonging within communities, by communities, within this great country. That's the second.
So again, Kapil, just to counter you with a counter question on that, which is that certainly I think for everyone in this country, and we must always remember that even though this is seen as a Hindu majoritarian government, that only 31% or 30% of the country voted for the BJP. So there's a vast number of Hindus that also don't feel comfortable with a communalized Hindutva agenda. So that's worth recalling. But I'd just like to put to you one question, and definitely I think the lynchings and the communal escalation has many people worried. But Harsh Mandir had a very interesting statement to make recently when he said that the BJP has made the ordinary Muslim in India politically irrelevant. He said, but the Congress and the secular parties are making the Muslims politically untouchable by actually feeling afraid to claim them as equal citizens, as constituencies, in response to the BJP's aggression. Would you own up to that as a fear within the party?
I don't agree. I don't agree with that at all. I think that, see the difference between what happened prior to 2014. See, it would be untruthful for me to say that there were no levels of discrimination against the Muslim community and against the Dalits, even before that. It would be a lie if I were to say that. So there was. The difference prior to 2014 and after 2014 is the following. Here, the state is at the heart of those discriminatory measures. Prior to 2014, it was the people. Individuals can have a mindset of that nature, but the state cannot afford that mindset. And today, at the heart of this discrimination is the state, their ministers, their governors, heads of institutions, vice chancellors. That's why you're having this problem in universities. So when the state adopts a policy of discrimination, then it's far more dangerous for society than it was before. But not that parties were not to blame before that.
Yeah, so, Kapil, very often the opposition now, gets at the government for putting people of their ideological mindset in key positions in the institution. And again, I would say personally that's a cause for worry. But isn't that what governments always do? So when your government was in power, did you not put like-minded people in key institutions?
I mean, I can only talk on my experience. Look, I was a minister, HRD, human resource. I was in telecom. I was in law, and I was in science and technology. You can ask anybody in the last 10 years, in those 10 years when I was a minister, whether I ever asked anybody, and in the search committee there were people who were heads of institutions, high experts, ever asked anybody to put somebody and appoint somebody. Never, never in 10 years. I reject that. I don't know about others, but I know for myself. And let me tell you another thing. Nobody ever made a phone call to me that please appoint this person in this job.
Well, that's, you've said that publicly, Kapil. If anybody challenges you, then...
No, nobody. Neither the powers that be that were not in government, nor the powers that were in government.
Okay, so we'll come back to, the Rafale deal, which we made a passing reference to. But just very quickly to finish your thoughts, and then I want to put some other questions to you about assertions that the opposition has been making, and even as your stint in HRD, because, continuing that conversation, it would be of interest to this audience. Yeah. So you were saying that there was communalism and there's the economy. Are the two things that, you feel that the Modi government has really failed on? Are there any more, or has your
demonetization?
Fine.
Another disaster.
That's become an inarguable situation.
No, but there's more to it. Again, the truth is yet to come out. According to me, and I hope this country gets to know about it before 2019, demonetization has been the biggest scam in the history of this country. And I tell you why. So did you find any guy in this country, any person in this country, who complained about the fact that he couldn't exchange his old notes with new notes? Nobody said anything, right? So all the guys who had the cash exchanged it. Right?
That's true, Kapil.
It's true?
Yes.
So how did that happen? You can't exchange money, which is black, turn it into white through the banking process, unless the banker is on your side, right? How do you get the banker on your side? You have to have individuals who have us, and why will the banker listen to the opposition? He will always listen to the MLA who is in power. So you have to have the government on your side, the banker on your side, then you will get unaccounted money into accounted money.
Kapil, the reason I'm...
The reason. So now nobody would do it without getting a cut. So the average cut for these transactions was 15%, right? And if you imagine 18.2 lakh crores of cash, I don't know how much of it was unaccounted for, but whatever the percentage is, got converted. And 15% of that went into commissions. I don't think there can be a bigger scam in the history of this country than that. I hope, and pray to God that it emerges before 2019.
So, Kapil, there's again, like I keep saying, there's too much to... the reason I don't want to focus on demonetization is that I think now across the board, it is almost accepted, even the RBI, and there have been committees and their reports, it's accepted that it was a disaster.
Not by the Prime Minister. He doesn't accept it.
We'll see what the Prime Minister accepts in 2000.
He says it was for the poor. In fact, it worked against the poor.
Yes.
The poor people who had legitimate cash, who earned less than 10,000 rupees a month, who had them in their house, couldn't convert.
True, but then that's the one thing that you haven't caught up with, that Mr. Modi is a communicator, and the opposition hasn't learned yet.
He is. He went to Facebook in the United States, and he said India is a $8 trillion economy. He publicly said that. We're just a $2 trillion. Then we are not even a $2 trillion economy. But then, so Modi has a way of saying things which people believe.
Shades of truth. So, Kapil, let me now turn the mirror back to you. Because
I thought you were going to go on to the 5 points. You've stopped at 3.
I've stopped at 3 because I'm running out of time. And what's the point of lambasting someone who's out of one's reach? If I had the pleasure of Mr. Modi's company here.
Lambast me. I'm ready for that. No issue.
So, Kapil, the thing is that the Congress, let's remember that you were brought down to 44 seats. It can't only be that an opposition that was outside of government was responsible for making you come down to 44 seats. There must have been some mistakes that the UPA made, and you all collectively, as very powerful people in that government, the mistakes that you made. So, like I said, will you at least introspect now and own up to a couple of mistakes that you've said that you were bad communicators? What are the other mistakes that you would own up to?
No. Remember, there are several. See, look, no person is perfect. No administration is perfect. No government policies are perfect. We're just imperfect human beings.
Absolutely.
So to say that we made no mistakes would be, again,
true, but I'm asking you to pin them down.
So mistakes in terms of organization. We don't have a well-oiled machinery like the BJP has. They have a cadre and there's the RSS backing them. And so we didn't have that. Okay, that was one mistake. We still don't have it in terms of an efficient workforce out there who actually 24/7 works for us. Some appointments have not also been made in many areas. So that's a problem. 2, I don't know whether it's our fault or somebody else's fault, but when I communicate, I can only communicate with you, right? Because I cannot communicate with the public directly.
I'm beginning to sound like a PR agent for Mr. Modi, but he seems to have bypassed the media and is only communicating directly with the audience.
Right. That's the second point I was coming to. So he had a professional social media workforce out there. Some of them came from outside, some of them professionals from here, and they have enormous amounts of money, and they paid a lot of money to these guys. So they were sitting on social media platforms, right, and using the social media much better than us. So that's the second mistake.
Kapil, you're opening yourself up to too many jokes, which is that what can one say of a government that was in power for 10 years and still complains that it had no money and that the opposition had more money than them?
No, I don't know. I think that you're getting it all wrong. We were in government, right? And let's accept your logic. We still don't have the money.
Why is that?
It's true.
Are you saying you were so incorrupt that you did not fill the party coffers at all?
No. I think you're being a bit unfair because you are assuming that because I was in government, I was corrupt.
No, I don't mean individually.
No.
I'm talking about...
There are lots of individuals out there. There was a prime minister out there. Okay? There were lots of individuals in my government who you cannot even think of being corrupt. Okay? So I think it's very insensitive for people to say, if you were in government, you must have been corrupt. I don't say that there were no corrupt people in government.
I must say, Kapil, I mean the party. I don't mean you.
No, why party? Corruption comes from government, not from party.
Yeah, I meant the government.
You must assume that we are corrupt because we were in government. That's another problem for anybody to assume that. And I think it's unfair, right? I don't say that they are corrupt. I do know that they have money. And I say they have money because all of you see it in elections. In the UP election after demonetization, who had the money? Who had the money? And nobody dares say that they are corrupt. Because we were far more open. When people asked us questions, we would answer them. We would get vilified. We wouldn't make a phone call to them.
That is fair.
Right?
I must say that no one in the media ever got a call.
I've never done that. So let's not. See, look, you can see corruption and the audience may clap. But the fact of the matter is, look at the elections and who is spending the money. So who has the money? If we had the money, why would we not spend it?
No, but Kapil...
And I can tell you honestly, when I go to my Congress office, and there are people, nowadays when we go for, going to states and giving talks or press conferences, I spend money from my own pocket. I buy my own ticket for the party. If we had that much of money stashed away, they would give us. So I think that this is a very unfair thing that people have been saying. That because of 1,76,000 crores and 1,85,000 crores, you think that all this money was pocketed by us. I mean, I think it's...
No, I would make a different point, Kapil, and here...
When you asked the question, and the audience clapped, I felt that, the audience feels that we are all corrupt sitting here.
No, I think the audience clapped because there is a common assumption amongst the people of India.
So all in government are corrupt.
No, Kapil. That because no party agrees to transparent political funding, the assumption is that party coffers are filled by having government in power. I think that is the common assumption.
You guys don't dare say that to this government. I've never seen a television channel anchor say that to this government, that they are corrupt. Somebody should ask that question. Their licenses would be cancelled.
Yes,
You can say that to me because I'm open about it and I will respond to it also. But you dare not ask that question.
I think that's a fair point to make, even while I've been, pushing Mr. Sibal. That is definitely true that I don't know how many of you read the papers today, but there was a raid on Mr. Raghav Bell's media outfit, and they have been very critical of the Modi government. There was, of course, a raid on Pranay Roy, and innumerable media people in private will tell you that they do get calls from this government. And I can say that equally, the media will say that they did not, at least in proportion, and I would make an assertion, never got a call from the UPA government, but at least in proportion, the media was never pilloried and positioned the way that this administration has done. Let me put that on record.
And I confess, it is not as if that everybody was Snow White. I mean, there will be corrupt people in every government. There's no issue on that. You have to accept that.
I'm still not on the corruption.
But I think to paint the Congress party and brush it with, that it's a corrupt party, and this is what's been happening on the media, and I see that. I mean, it hurts me, because some of us, I lost 10 years of my professional career where I could make money, right? And I know, the consequences of that. So let's talk of reality.
Sure. Fair enough. Let me move away then to the other point that people do put to the Congress all the time, Kapil, which is that what is your narrative? Clearly the narrative of the Congress did not appeal to the voters in 2014.
What?
So the point is that, like you said, there were very competent people in that government. It did very well for a few years on the economy. There was such a sense of optimism. It was certainly a liberal government in terms of putting a lot of citizenship rights. Very, very liberal, progressive laws were done and rights were created during this regime. Then what was missing in the narrative, and what reflection have you done on that?
I think the truth about that is yet to come out, as to why we lost and why we were reduced to 44. But obviously, the people wanted change. That's the bottom line. And they expressed themselves very vocally through the ballot, or through the EVM, so to say. But the
EVM is uniformly used by all parties.
Let's wait for the truth to emerge. Hopefully in the next few months it will. And let's find out why we lost.
But Kapil, again, let's assume that there was shades of truth on why you lost. Is there absolutely no introspection that the Congress has to do on what is its narrative? Today, let me put it to you boldly. If you were to answer in, one of those 2-minute, 3-minute options that you have, why should anybody in India today vote for the Congress?
I'll tell you why.
What's the short answer?
I'll tell you why. I have a very enlightened audience in front of me. Okay, let's now figure out how India has done when a strong mascot, right, a guy who can communicate so wonderfully, a strong man with a majority in government, what he has done in the last 4.5 years, and what we did, or what governments which didn't have majorities did in the last 20 years, okay? So let's start with 1991. 1 second.
Yeah, sure.
No majority, the entire liberalization process was started by a coalition government. Right? 1997, no majority, the dream budget by Mr. Chidambaram. No majority in 1998, Pokhran 2. Right? No majority in 2001, the telecom sector policy. no majority in again 2000 onwards. The Golden Quadrilateral, the road program, connecting India with the road, no majority. No majority in the coalition government in 2004, the nuclear deal, right to education, right to information, Mahatma Gandhi Manrega, right? And several other very, very path-breaking policies. No majority, no absolute majority. So all these path-breaking events took place when there was no mascot, no great leader, no majority. Now you have a majority. What has he done for us?
Sure, but...
Because the people must know why they should vote. What has he done for us? Fear in India, right? People don't know what's going to happen tomorrow. Lynchings all over. Every government organization filled with RSS people, from governors to vice chancellors to heads of institutions to ministers, right? Intolerant statements in the country, right? Demonetization, and ill-thought GST, right? Economy is where it is. The economy has never been so bad than it is. And during that period of 10 years, when there was, according to the opposition, policy paralysis, we gave an average growth rate of 8.2%. In this strong government where the leader has the support of the majority and everybody is blue-eyed about him, right? He's not given us that growth at all. So if you really compare a government with a strong leader supported by a majority in parliament to a government which didn't have a strong leader but which delivered, then the people of this country should know who to vote for.
But Kapil, that's a good... I think Mr. Sibal really needs that round of clapping, you know, so you can do another round of it. But Kapil, that's like a summing up of a resume. I asked you that...
These are facts.
No, but what is the narrative? When you say what is...
Telling you the narrative.
You gave us the achievements. What is the narrative?
What we want to do in education. I just mentioned to him. He asked me the question, if I were back in power, right? What would I do for education? He asked me for skill development. I gave him a vision.
I suddenly caught sight of the technology over there which says
right.
that there's
why did I want an Akash out there? I wanted an Akash out there because I knew there are not enough teachers in this country. Right? People living in the rural areas, where do they have a teacher to teach them maths? If I were to, through the fiber optic network in this country, connect every Gram Panchayat with a fiber optic network, and every school with a fiber optic network, a good teacher in maths can teach anybody, any poor child anywhere in India, right? That's the vision. That's the vision of schooling, of skilling, of development. The same thing with the health sector. Why should anybody have to come to AIIMS or come to a hospital in Jaipur or some other capital, from where he'll take 2 days to travel, he wouldn't know where to stay. You should have technology that should solve those problems. I think the key is R&D, scientific research. Give a premium to that. Get professionals onto jobs.
That's a very valid point. I'd just quickly share with you, because we have to open this up to the audience, and we didn't even get to Mr. Rahul Gandhi, Mayawati and Akhilesh, so we'll need short answers on that, Kapil. But just when he mentioned about having professional people on the job, I think it's fair to remember, I'll just share 2 episodes. I'm sure all of you know Mr. Satyapal Singh, who's the HRD Minister of State, recently was addressing somebody and said that the Darwin theory of evolution must be thrown out of textbooks, because he said, our Nana Nani never said about this, and we never saw anyone go into the jungle and turn from an ape into a man. So he discounts the Darwin theory, and he's the Minister of State for HRD. Mr. Rupani, who's the Chief Minister of Gujarat, recently was addressing a conference of infrastructure and technology, and he said that Lord Ram was the first nuclear scientist because the arrows that he shot were, and the ISRO chief was sitting there, and he said those were nuclear missiles. And then we have the education minister in Rajasthan who says that every cow exhales oxygen, when actually they exhale 2,500 300 kilograms of carbon dioxide or 300 kilograms of methane, but he insists that they exhale oxygen. Now that is another
there was
level.
another one who said that this more jo hota hai, because of his tears, reproduction takes place. Right?
Yes. That's like mixing up Greek mythology, because I thought that's how Zeus managed to get children with goddesses. You know?
Then, of course, there was somebody who also mentioned about the surgery that took place in the olden days.
Yes.
I don't want to take his name. We all know it.
Yes, it's like naming Voldemort. But I'm not giving you an easy ticket on this, Kapil. Let's quickly come to Mr. Rahul Gandhi, Akhilesh and Mayawati, and I'm on zero. The short answer. Akhilesh and Mayawati have said that the Congress has not approached them. The Mahagathbandhan looks like it's a dead-on-arrival, fish in the water. And this tawdriness of the Congress does not seem to have changed at all. What is your answer to that?
My answer is that there will be an alliance in Uttar Pradesh.
So there are shades of truth in these public assertions as well?
Always.
That's politics.
Yes, that's politics.
Okay. What about Mr. Rahul Gandhi? I saw that you were making a very strong case for a government that doesn't necessarily have to have a strong leader. Are you building up to what we would experience if the Congress came to power with Rahul Gandhi?
I cannot possibly answer that. Because I don't know what the scenario would be, right? But if the strong leadership that we've had in the last few years is going to be repeated, then we may have a leadership, but we may not have a constitution.
That's a fair warning, Kapil, and I think one that needs to be taken seriously. I'm really sorry we've run out of time. Let's have a couple of questions because I can see the zero staring at us. Yes.
Sir, you talked about that we assume that every government in India is corrupt and the coffers should be filled, which is not. So keeping that aside, I believe that the biggest question is political funding. So one thing which Mr. Jaitley did, he brought political funding through the budget into bonds, which no one opposed. It's legalizing political funding corruption in a sense. So why does Congress didn't oppose that? And if Congress is so much against that, why doesn't it put the list of all political funding on its website and keep that open?
Yeah, I think
to bring transparency into politics.
Good question.
Congress opposed it. Why do you say Congress didn't oppose it? We opposed it and we still oppose it. We've been talking about it. We're making public statements on it. This is the executive decision that he has taken.
So
we oppose it fully. We think that this is one way of bringing unaccounted wealth into the system. Right.
Yes, so
and this is one way of ensuring that BJP gets all the funding, because the Reserve Bank of India will know who is funding the Congress party and the opposition parties, and no businessman will dare fund us, and everybody will fund them. This is one way of actually amassing wealth.
That's
exactly, sir. So the question is, why is Congress not doing anything about it, being at least the second largest party in India?
We are opposing it. And as far as our funding is concerned, the Election Commission has asked us, and we give our returns. Remember, every donation above 20,000 rupees has to be, disclosure has to be made as to who gave that money, above to 2,000 rupees. Oh, it's impossible. It's an accounting nightmare. How many millions of people will give you 5 rupees, 10 rupees, 20 rupees? How will a party maintain accounts?
maybe above a certain level. But just to share with you, because you brought up the electoral bonds, that the Quint did a very, very important story which said that there were secret tracking numbers on those electoral bonds. They did that story as an investigative story, one of which, many stories which may have led to the raid today, just to put that out on public record.
And talking of corruption, let me tell you, the real worry, I think, the real worry is the corruption in agencies. That's the real worry in this country. If you really look at some of the enforcement agencies and the levels of corruption in those agencies, it's mind-boggling as the kind of money that is being made. The establishment ultimately becomes the center of corruption.
Yes, ma'am.
Since it is an HR forum, and I think you are a former HR minister, I really wanted to understand there are multiple parties who have moved on, and we've been still using 1970 Shops and Establishment Act, and nobody in the organization, in the politics, is actually looking out, re-looking into these particular policies. Why is that impact not getting digitalized and not getting impacted? And do you see anything coming up in the near future?
Yes, I think so. I think people are moving in that direction, and we should move in that direction and rationalize it. I entirely agree with you.
Yes, there's a question there. And then I'll come to you. Sorry, there's some light in my eyes. I can't see at the back.
Hello?
Yes, yes. You first and then the gentleman.
Yeah. So it was very, very enlightening, so to say. Some of the points, I have been a big supporter of Modi in 2014. I'm a bit disillusioned.
I hope a little more than a bit.
I have got 3 reasons from you.
Maybe I should have let him give 5.
I may go for a nota, but I'm still not enthused to come back to party that I have
don't
voted
vote for us, but don't go for nota.
Yeah, yeah.
Doesn't matter if you don't vote, but don't go for nota. You're a voter.
Right.
Decide for yourself what's good for India.
Right. But then just one little statement, which is about to Shoma first, which is on the media front. I always had this impression that there is a section of media which had only focused from 1960s all the way to 2010, at least until the internet came into the mainstream, right? Focused only one point of view. It never gave an opportunity for an alternate thought to come. And that kind of got evened out right now with the advent of social media. Hence, in 2010, when you said that while Congress got pillaged for the corruption, but there was no thought for what you call as right. Right was always seen as, usme dimag mein kuch nahi hai, right? While that may be true with all the examples that you gave, but entire right is not like that. So now coming to my question, Sibal sir, what is your personal view on Ram Mandir? What is your personal view?
Look, मैं सच बात बताऊं, अगर तेरे दिल में मंदिर है ना, तो कोई और मंदिर की जरूरत नहीं.
There's a very interesting phrase that Mr. Yashwant Sinha used, on the Algebra platform that, 6 of us women run, when we invited him and we posed this question to him about now today being worried about communalism, but he was a great, extension of Mr. Advani and the Yat Yatra. He said, well, a souffle doesn't rise twice. That's the way he referred to the Ram Mandir.
No, the matter is that it is the matter which is in court. The matter will be decided by court. And whatever the court says should be acceptable to the people of this country. But I think that on the more
personal
the
front.
important thing is, in the personal issue, see, what does Mandir stands for? It stands for humanity. Or any religious place stands for humanity, doing good to your brother, doing good to your sister, no me too, right? No discrimination, no lynching. That's what religion is all about. And if you have it in your heart, you don't need all this stuff.
Yes, sir.
Sir, I have 2 questions for you, Jai Hind. When Burhan Wani got eliminated in 2015, okay, Burhan Wani, the terrorist,
Yeah.
The so-called son of a poor headmaster,
Yeah.
that been highlighted by the media. So the entire nation condemned that except Congress. Okay, the Congress only supported him and said that okay, it's completely by the defense forces who killed him unnecessarily. That's the first one that I have for you.
Sorry, sir, we can't hear you very
can't
clearly. And can you
understand
keep it short because we're really out of time? Just ask a pointed question. What is the question about Burhan Wani?
Okay, so why haven't you guys condemned that, firstly?
Why haven't?
The Congress condemned his act because they also said that the defense forces only went and killed him unnecessarily. That's the first one that has been told. Okay, and the second thing is that what's your stand on Rajiv Gandhi's killers, LTTE persons who are now the Supreme Court said that you can release them, but they killed our Prime Minister.
Why do you ask me issues that I don't have to decide?
No, of course.
I don't have to decide this.
No,
Why should be released, not be released? Why you should go in or not go in? I don't have to decide all that.
Yep.
There is a process. There is a process in law. If that process is clean, you should be acquitted. If the process is clean and you are guilty, you should be inside. If the process is that you are innocent, you should be out. And it's not for me to decide. Individuals can't decide these matters and should not. Nor should they give their views in it. Nowadays what's happening is matters are going on in court and you guys are deciding, not you I mean, but the media is deciding who is guilty and who is innocent.
No, I think that's a very fair criticism. You know, it's not about just adding facts to the public domain, but having judgment beforehand. You know?
I have a question over here.
Yeah,
Okay.
actually.
Okay, let's just go tic-tac on the gender, please.
Yeah.
Yes.
Thank you so much, Shoma. Good evening, sir. My question to you is, you said that, BJP is going to the public and, Congress has not gone to the public. Who stopped Congress not to go to the public on the domain?
Well, I think that you didn't quite appreciate what I said. I said I can communicate my views to her. For example, I can communicate my views to the media, but it's the media that takes those views to the public.
No, but her point is that Mr. Modi is...
So Man Ki Baat or the
That he
mailer
short-circuited,
communication
why not
that is
yours?
coming from the PMO office is accessible to everyone. So who stopped Congress for that?
No, please, when I make a statement on any issue, it is not reflected in the media.
No,
Many
Kapil,
a
I
time
think-
I've made statements. Many a time I've made statements on explanations, on the scams. None of this is in the public domain.
Kapil, the point that she's making is that you are saying that the media does not play fair and doesn't communicate your message, but she said, what stopped the Congress for becoming smart and using social media or Man Ki Baat?
I never thought in those terms. See, look, Dr. Manmohan Singh never thought of governance in those terms. We never thought of governance being only jumlas and have nothing to do with reality. And I congratulate Dr. Manmohan Singh for it. That was not the task of government. This is not the work of government that you should keep on, telling people that we are an $8 trillion economy and there's zero balance accounts. Everybody is working on the zero balance accounts. The cost of cylinders today, the cost of cylinders is much more than it ever was. But you get the feeling that no, it's not. It's not. So if governments is only media campaign, and if the people of this India want only a media campaign, then they should certainly bring BJP back to power. But if the people of India want to improve their lives, if they want a prime minister who works rather than sort of goes to the media all the time, there's no time for the actual work, then of course...
Or who believes too much in Jadoo Ki Jappi.
That's right. So you can have any kind of statements that you make,
Sure.
but ultimately we people have to work for the people of the country.
It's just the last question.
If there's a comment we want to add on that.
Yeah. Any debate like this will always, fruitful when we hear both sides of the story. Unfortunately, I'm hearing one side of the story. Yeah. So
Yes.
this is what, So, what happening here, it's a very good debate. I'm hearing Mr. Sibal's statement, and that's very wonderful. But however, if I can hear the BJP view also here, then this debate can be useful.
Sir,
Otherwise
I
it's a
can tell
one-sided.
you, hear the BJP's view 24/7 every day on television.
No, but I agree with you. I agree with you that it would be fantastic. And I will say this on record, that as part of Algebra, one has been trying to reach out repeatedly to the BJP. We had Mr. Subramaniam Swamy the other day, and I wish I could tell you some of the things he said. But I must also put on record that never has there been a government so difficult to get access to than this government. And I say that on public record. So without them getting centralized permission, most ministers don't even want to speak in public. But I think, let me just end this now. I'm really sorry, but the organizers want this ended. Achal, there are lots of hands up. Archana?
Let's do short two questions, please. Okay.
Because this is an HR forum, one simple question. Congress, what is it doing for leadership development in its own team, skill development in its own team?
Good question. You'll have to answer that.
What is Congress doing in skill development to its own team? You don't think that all of us are unskilled, you think? Do you think all of us are unskilled?
On leadership, on communicating.
I can't communicate, you think? There are lots of people in the Congress who are leaders in their own right, who can communicate. And this is, I don't want to sound I don't want to sound as if they're, but there are lots of people in the Congress who have enormous talent. And this is nothing to do with me or anybody else. There are lots of out there enormous talent, great leaders. And you'll see them.
I think, if I may speak on your behalf, I think that, Kapil, there's an affliction in the Congress where almost everyone would accept that it had a very, very talented ministry. But there has to be some gap in its understanding of leadership when it fails to introspect on why, with such a talented ministry, it is unable to communicate. Like, I think it's very important what this gentleman said. He said, I have a lot of doubts now about Mr. Modi, but I'm still not enthused about coming back to Congress. Until the Congress introspects about that, this country is not going to get the bipolar, electoral landscape that it deserves.
I see the problem with that question, and quite frankly, what do you mean by communication? I mean,
that you're not able to reach people's hearts.
How has the communicator reached people in this country? And what has he been saying to the people of this country?
No, he may be an evil communicator going by your interpretation, but he's...
No, not Shoma, not by mine. Let's talk to non-partisan forums. That communication has taken us where? Where is that?
Sure, but the answer to that can't be no communication.
I didn't say that, but I say that you need a leadership that communicates on substance. You need a leadership that communicates on values. You need a leadership that communicates as to how to empower people. This is all communication, how to empower yourself. That's not
good.
This country.
You have to learn the art of the pithy statement, Kapil. That was a good one.
Hi. My question, being an HR forum, what is Congress doing to recruit youth into the politics? I mean, how are we, if Congress comes to power, how do you plan to bring youth or so-called talented youth to be in politics?
If you notice that, one of our ex-ministers is heading the Congress Professional Forum, right? You don't know?
No.
Our friend, who's the HRD minister also, Shashi Tharoor, we have set up a Congress Professional Forum. We hold meetings throughout the country. I've been to several, where we are talking to professionals and wanting them to join the Congress party. In fact, there's a whole new program only for that you're talking about. And that's trying to attempt to attract the youth. There's no doubt about that.
Hi.
You don't hear about it because the television channels don't talk about it.
Hi. Here. So just wanted to know that you talked about...
We'll have to make this the last question. Make it a surgical strike.
Sure. You talked about licenses being cancelled, which is a policy decision, and that was done by the judiciary. Should there be a control over judiciary going for policy decision cancellation? How?
In my book that I've written, that is Shades of Truth, there's a whole chapter on the coal scam and a whole chapter on the telecom scam, where I have criticized the judiciary for those judgments. You know that we have what is called a bilateral protection treaty, investment protection treaty, bilateral investment protection treaty called BIPA. When foreign investment takes place in this country, and somebody has invested and that license is cancelled, through BIPA, he can sue us. And because of the cancellation of licenses, Government of India is being sued for an amount of 49,000 crores in arbitration proceedings because of cancellation of licenses. Can you imagine the outcome of that? And what the country will go through if those decrees are allowed through arbitration awards? You see, nobody knows about this. But this is the reality of India.
Sorry, we can't hear you. That's how the Congress feels, that they can't be heard. And no, it's a very fair point. I've really been ribbing Mr. Sibal right through, but those 2 chapters in his book are really worth reading, because I think the point he's making is that there are many complex issues at stake, and today public communication has really just... Now he's getting heard. So those chapters are worth reading because he puts out a very reasoned argument and defense of their position. I'm really sorry. I think we'll have to end it here because we've really moved out of time. you know, you've all been bringing up questions as HR people, and he was HRD minister. I think the key question really facing this entire country is the future of jobs and some really radical thinking on jobs. Mr. Modi promised, and this is what one calls a jumla, he promised crores of jobs, but last year only 1.75 lakh jobs were created. When 10 million young people are joining the workforce every year, 100 million are looking for jobs. And there's been a very subtle moving away from saying that we'll do job creation to really saying become your own entrepreneur and your own businessman. Pakoranomics. But I really do think there's time for radical thinking on the economy and on the farmer issue, which almost 600 million people belong to the agricultural sector. These are really the big human resource questions of our country. Let's hope that we have a real choice about who and which government is going to provide the correct answers for those very, very important questions. Mr. Sibal, I hope you'll be able to answer people in the next few months about why they should vote for the Congress with even more power than you did today. But thank you for making a beginning. Thank you very much. Thank you for listening.
Thank you, Mr. Sibal. And maybe one last question. What 2 important things you would do if you are back in power? And you also said that you made some mistakes in 2014. How are you going to correct those?
2 important things that I would do. I don't know. There's so many things that one needs to do.
It has to be focused approach.
Huh?
It has to be focused approach.
Top priority. Yeah. Make sure that the banking sector is back in order. Okay. I think that's top priority for us, right? And make sure that we live as a family. That's second priority.
And I also have to make one comment that SHRM is a neutral body. So it is Mr. Sibal's view. We are neutral, whether it is Democratic or Republicans. We stand with both the parties.
Don't worry, he won't cancel your meeting next year.
A small token for you, sir. It's a book on 8 steps of performance. It's a book on 8 steps of performance management.
Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. Thank you, thank you. Thank you, lovely audience. Thank you, Shoma. Thank you, Mr. Sibal. And we are going to play a short video because we asked a few questions from you and what audience has to say for this conference. So please play the short video, please. And I would say a vote of thanks to all of you.
Put your hands together for the winners.
And we just have one of our speakers walk in. Abhijit, hi.
Hi, how are you?
Very good, thank you. And just wanted to know from you, how's your experience been?
Keep growing at the exponential rate. So I think that's what I would expect from SHRM and nothing less.
I think the sheer scale of it, 1,500 plus people, 30 plus speakers, 450 years of wisdom, collective wisdom being shared in terms of success stories, failures, lessons learned for the industry.
It's a very nice experience here, and the kind of people gathering here, so it's a very huge gathering here. They were very nice and quite engaging.
The only word that comes to my mind is wow. Wonderful
and
to
I
be
would
here.
like to
Amazing
call
event,
the SHRM India team on the stage, please.
Every year it gets better and better, doesn't it?
Fantastic, more than 100,000 visitors, large number of exhibitors, good energy, and we have got very fantastic response. We look forward to work with SHRM in future as well.
I look forward to seeing you also in Dubai in February. SHRM HR Tech, EMEA.
A big thank you to all of you, big thank you to our partners, our production company and hotel. Thank you so much. This was the largest HR conference in India with 1,580 registrations. So thanks and see you next year again. And before that, would look forward to seeing you at our tech conference in April. And a big thank you, Nick. Please come on the stage to say a big thank you. Most of the people have to take flight, but still I would like to call SHRM team on the stage, please.